time for Q&A. If your question isn't answered, I will be in the corner when we're done, and please come find me, and we'll hope to get you the interviews and comments you're looking for. Just hang in for 2 more. Thanks so much.
Families in Minneapolis are mourning. Our Greater Annunciation Fellowship is mourning. Our entire city is united in grief, and at the same time, based on this incredible group of people that has assembled here in City Hall, we are also united in action. We are committed to not having this be the scenario where another politician comes up to say never again. Another person stands in front of a microphone to announce a horribly tragic and unspeakable situation where more family members have been killed. We are committed to making this time different. And we have so many residents around our city and around our state that are 100% united to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Of course, we're standing up with love. Of course, we're standing up with thoughts and with prayers. But thoughts and prayers are not going to cut it. It's on all of us to see this through so that there is an action, so that something like this never happens again. We need action at the federal level. We need action at the state level. We need coordination with the cities around the country to make sure that every person has this common foundation of safety where they can send their kid off to school and have the confidence that they will be safe. Think of these kids, not as somebody else's, but as your own. Think of those last words that you had with your child just this morning before you sent them into school. You kissed them on the cheek, you got them set up with their shoes, you pushed them a pouch of applesauce. Maybe these were little annoyances, but the truth is that there's this common and beautiful thing. We love our children. Make these changes not out of hate. Make them out of a simple and beautiful foundational love for our kids. And so what are we talking about? When we talk about action, we need to talk about the action steps that need to take place. We need a statewide and a federal ban on assault weapons. We need a statewide and a federal ban on high-capacity magazines. There is no reason that someone should be able to reel off 30 shots before they even have to reload. We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle here. We're talking about guns that are built to pierce armor and kill people. Why do we have them coming in by the trunk loads onto our streets around the country? And this is not just about Minneapolis. Because you can buy an assault rifle in Milwaukee, and that assault rifle is in Minneapolis by noon that very same day. And so when we talk about the work that needs to be done, it's going to take a whole lot of unity from a lot of different cities, and I've gotten calls from their mayors who have experienced virtually the same thing that we experienced yesterday. And because we love our kids, because we love our families, because we love our constituents, we all have the obligation to act. And what you see here, you see federal congresswomen, you see we see our Minneapolis state delegation. You have council members from both Minneapolis and St. Paul. You have our sheriff. You have Moms Demand Action, Protect Minnesota, and every town all united and rallying around a common theme, which is keeping our cities and our country safe. And here's the thing. To the extent the federal government isn't willing to do it, to the extent a divided legislature prevents our state from acting, and by the way, I know that our Minneapolis delegation is on board with this work because they've been doing it Thank you. But here's the final ask. To the extent other levels of government are either unwilling or unable to keep cities safe, let us do it ourselves. We are responsible for 435,000 residents that call Minneapolis home and many more that come and go. I think we'd be happy to ban assault rifles here in Minneapolis. I know we'd be happy to prevent a next mass shooting from taking place. We have every obligation, not just to each other, but to these families that call Minneapolis home. We love them. Let's love them with more than words. Let's love them with the kind of action that will forever make the difference for people in our city. So the next go round, there's not another city 2 months from now that is saying the same damn thing. Let's stop this from happening. Let's stand up for our children. Let's stand up for each and every one of them. So it takes a whole team to pack this hall, to put these events together, but more importantly, to do the kind of long-term advocacy that results in change. I mentioned a number of groups that are here, and I have the honor, and please give her a very warm welcome, of welcoming up from Moms Demand Action, an exceptional volunteer in Leah Condis.
Thank you. As the mayor said, my name's Leah Condis. I lead the Minneapolis local group of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. But today, I'm not here just as an advocate. I'm here as a mom. I have 3 daughters. One of them has already lived through shootings at both the mall and the state fair. And I'm a Catholic. I forgot to mention that part. Now, here in our own city, families are living through the nightmare of a shooting on the very first day of school. Annunciation Catholic School should have been a sanctuary, a place where kids laugh with their friends, teachers prepared lessons, parents feel safe dropping their children off in the morning. Instead, gunfire tore through those doors. Children were gunned down in church, praying in their place of worship. Another school year begins, and once again, it is marked by gun violence. And this is not an isolated incident. Less than 24 hours before this tragedy, there was another shooting here in Minneapolis. And in that case, an AR-15 style assault weapon was used. These are weapons of war, and they are tearing through our communities over and over again. We cannot call ourselves a free country when parents cannot send their kids to school without wondering if they will come home alive. And even for the children who survive, the trauma will live with them forever. All signs point to yesterday's shooting also being carried out with an assault weapon. These guns were designed for battlefields, not for our schools, not for our churches, and not for our neighborhoods. No civilian needs a gun that can fire dozens of rounds in seconds. These weapons exist for one purpose: to kill and wound as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. We've seen what happens time and again when assault weapons are used. And we also know what happens when they're banned. Lives are saved. When the federal assault weapons ban was in place, mass shootings went down. After it expired, they increased. We cannot afford more delay. Here in Minneapolis, this tragedy comes after 3 other deadly shootings in just 24 hours. Our city is in pain. Our state is in pain. And yet still, lawmakers at the state and federal levels refuse to do the one thing that could stop this: ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Sending kids to school should not mean sending them into a war zone. Enough is enough. Our children deserve better. Our teachers deserve better. Our communities deserve better. So today, on behalf of the families reeling from this shooting, and on behalf of every parent who lies awake at night wondering if their child is safe, we are demanding action. Minnesota must lead and Congress must follow. Ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Get these weapons of war off our streets and out of our communities. Our kids cannot wait any longer.
There you go.
Now it is my privilege to introduce my Congresswoman, Representative Ilhan Omar.
Thank you, Leah. As Leah said, it shouldn't be hard to ban assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition. What is hard is being a mother, having just dropped off your babies, just returning home to clean up the mess that was left after breakfast, getting rid of that cereal bowl, maybe the little bit of scrambled eggs that was left over, the half-drinking juice box. That should be hard. And receiving that phone call before you are even able to get rid of the residue that your babies left as you dropped them off at school, and to hear that your two angels are no more. That someone evil enough was afforded the ability to get a weapon that could be used to assassinate them through a window at their school while they sat for morning mass. I do not know what society finds themselves in the place that we continuously find themselves since Columbine, that comes together in these moments of grief, that rightfully prays for the grieving families and victims, but does not come together to do whatever they can to make sure this does not happen again. Leah and the mayor mentioned the fact that these are weapons that are used in war. I know a little bit about that. At the age of 8, I survived war myself. I'd never imagined that I'd come to the United States and be in high school, and that there would be a school shooting, and that I myself and my kids to come would practice school drills on how to avoid being gunned down in one of the greatest nations in the world. There is something fundamentally broken. I know that in America we value life. I know that in America we are loving neighbors. I know that in America we are people of faith because these babies that were gunned down were actually kneeling in prayer. But what I do not know is why, uniquely in America, we have the capacity to not change what we know we can. So that is what we must ask ourselves. This is not a big issue for us to solve, like curing cancer or AIDS, even though we attempt to do that every single day. This is something that is simple, a simple ban to make sure people who should not have access to these weapons do not get them, and then cause harm and trauma for generations to come in our communities. It is a simple ask. You don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be political at all. You don't even have to be a parent, you don't have to love going to the movies or watching concerts. All you have to be is a human being who loves the ability to live in the liberty of knowing that no one has the capacity to take your life in seconds with the weapons that they shouldn't have access to. And I'm going to call on someone who understands the kind of damage that these kind of weapons could cause to a body, that also understands the trauma that children and families have to live with. This is Dr. Mark Guelter, who used to be the former CEO of Children's Hospital and specializes in trauma. Because in this moment, if America has not woken up yet, they need to hear the real realities of what these damages look like in order for our hearts to continue to be softened and for our minds to start thinking about the solutions that we know are accessible to us.
Thank you, Representative Omar. My name is Dr. Mark Gorelick. I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician, and I want to start by acknowledging the grief of all the children and families at Assumption Church. Every single one of them was assaulted and traumatized yesterday, everyone in that community. And I also want to acknowledge the folks in the EMS system and at Hennepin Health and at Children's Minnesota who took care of those patients. Because I know from my 25 years of practicing pediatric emergency medicine that when you have seen a small body that has been mutilated by bullets, you do not easily or ever get over that. And all the more so because we all know it is entirely preventable. Since 2020, when gun injury became the leading cause of death for children in the United States, since then we have been saying that we are in a public health crisis. And we are. But too often we are putting the emphasis on the word crisis instead of on the word health. This is a health issue. This is not a criminal justice issue or a policing issue. This is not a constitutional law issue. This is not a moral issue. It is a health issue. Children are being injured and killed. They're being injured and killed by bullets coming out of guns fired by people in a social context. And a public health issue requires a public health approach. Centuries of public health research and experience tells us that we have to address all of those factors. In this case, starting with the lethality of the gun and the bullet. Now, the mechanics of this are pretty simple, as Representative Omar said. It's simple. More bullets fired with more force, more injury. Fewer bullets fired with less force cause less injury. It really is that simple. And it turns out the epidemiology and the public policy is also quite simple. There is extensive research showing that in jurisdictions with stronger gun safety laws and policies, including limitations and bans on semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines, that in those jurisdictions there are fewer people who die of gun injury. Easy, right? So what we need is those actions. We need those laws because those laws will save people's lives, period. Those laws can and will save our children's lives. And so, we need action at the federal level, we need action at the state level, and as you've heard. And so I would like to next introduce State Senator Zainab Mohammed.
Okay. They're asking me to get lower so you can hear me. Speak louder? Okay, great. I want to thank everyone for being here today, including so many of my legislative colleagues. And I want to take the opportunity to call out few of them who are not here today but have been extraordinary on this issue, and some who are with us, including Senator Marty, Senator Latz, and Senator Gustafson. The list of us who demand action on this issue is large and growing every day. And because we cannot go back in time, the moment to act is now. What happened at Annunciation Catholic School yesterday was an attack against our beautiful Southside community, against all people of faith, and against humanity. As we have said already, and it must be repeated, offering prayers for the victims is not enough. These children in the church were in the act of praying. Some of us are privileged to be in a position to not only pray for peace, but to act on it and to create it. At the legislative level, we have taken steps to make our community safer, like red flag laws and enhanced background checks. We have and will continue to give law enforcement new tools. But the monsters who commit these horrific crimes and acts keep using the same tools. The same weapons of war turn up over and over at different shootings. High-powered, high-capacity rifles have killed thousands of Americans over the decades, and hundreds of children, including the ones yesterday. It makes me sick that our teachers and kids know what to do in the event of an attack, that they conduct drills to react when that awful moment comes. Parents have practiced at explaining the unexplainable and consoling children who have lost friends who are afraid to go back to the classroom tomorrow. We can act here in Minnesota so that generations from now, our children's children won't fear and won't have to worry about anything but books, math, and maps. If the shooter had an ideology, it was one of hatred, of humanity. They express admirations of mass shooters who have targeted Jews and Muslims and Christians and progressives and children. This is not a part of any community's identity. It is pure hate. The targets of gun violence are too many to count. 2 months ago, it was our friends, Melissa Hortman and John Hoffman and their families, and dozens of other legislators, including me. On Monday, it was 7 people on the street in Minneapolis. Yesterday, it was kids in church. Who will it be tomorrow? How will we explain to them we did nothing to save them? We cannot shield our children with our eyes closed and hands behind our backs. When Martin Luther King was murdered, Bobby Kennedy quoted an ancient Greek poet who said that pain falls drop by drop upon our heart, and that in our despair against our will, through the grace of God, and it becomes wisdom. Our community feels pain, which we cannot forget, and we won't. We must find the wisdom and the strength to act to save each other and all future generations. Thank you. And next, I'd like to call up my partner in the Senate District, Representative Emma Greenman.
Well, I first want to say, I think on behalf of Senator Mohammed, Councilwoman Koski, we represent the beautiful neighborhood that Annunciation is part of. And thank you for the advocates, the colleagues, the community members here who are here, not just from Minneapolis, not just from the metro, from around the state, who understand what is happening. Our community is shaken and heartbroken. Losing 2 kids, 17 injured kids and parishioners, and a whole community who this tragedy has reverberated out. I found out about this from neighbors who called and texted and who didn't know what was going on. They heard the barrage of bullets. Nobody should have to live through that. Nobody should lose their kids or family members over that, and communities shouldn't have to live like this. So for the last 24 hours, last day, we have been wrapping our arms around the community, around the families, around Annunciation Church and everybody there. And I just want you all to know how important this community is. You know, this is the place where people go and give blood. It is where the very Jewish side of me got a Christmas tree. It is where Girl Scouts and sports teams, it is our entire community. And so when something like this happens, it is not just South Minneapolis, it is Richfield and in Bloomington, in the whole metro. And we join in our grief communities around the country that have been here before, that have been shocked and wrecked and have said this is unimaginable, and now it is imaginable because we keep letting it happen. Enough is enough. We cannot become numb to this. We cannot become numb. We cannot have people say there's nothing else we can do. Red flag laws don't work. Anything doesn't work. That is not true. And there is more we can do. Today, we are talking about a school and a church, but we know across the country it is a school and a church and a concert and a grocery store and a movie theater and just going to work. Everyday people need to be safe doing everyday things. That's right. In Minnesota, we have been working hard to get this done, and we know that there's more to do, and we need elected officials, we need communities, we need everybody to demand this, because no longer can any elected official say, we will not take care of the guns that are killing our kids. No longer. And we know that this is not a uniquely Minnesota issue. It is a national issue. And as our Congresswoman Omar said over and over again, and has said, we need a national solution. So we are going to get to work here in Minnesota. We have been getting to work. Behind me, whether it's Representative Frazier, Representative Moeller, and many others that my colleague Senator Mohammed mentioned, have been working night and day, years after years. And we are going to get it done, but what we know is Washington has to solve this problem with us. Yes. So I just want to leave you with the words that the principal of Annunciation said yesterday, because I think it is indicative of our path forward. He said a proverb. He said, when you pray, move your feet. Move your feet. And we are here today. We are here with community. We are here with families and parents. We are here with people across the state of Minnesota and elected officials at all levels of government to move our feet together. And that means moving our feet to ban assault weapons, to ban high-capacity magazines, to improve and increase the things we are doing to ensure that never again do people have to feel unsafe, do kids have to worry and shelter in place. And we can and need to continue to say never again, because we need to make that a reality together. And so please, let me introduce from Protect Minnesota, Maggie Emery, because it is the families and the advocates on the front lines that we do this work with. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maggie Emery. I'm the Executive Director of Protect Minnesota, which is the only state-based, statewide gun violence prevention organization in our state. I stand here today, once again, angry and heartbroken. In 2.5 years in this job, I have lost count of the number of times that I've stood in front of a microphone saying that I'm standing here angry and heartbroken, and I am just sick of it. Yet again, our children, our parents, and our teachers and our communities have been forced to live through a nightmare. Guns are the #1 cause of death for children in this country. Let me say that again, the #1 cause of death for children in this country, and every single one is preventable. How many more times do we have to gather like this before we act? How many more times do the people here with me today have to stand up in front of news microphones and say, please let this be the last time, before it's actually the last time? And the thing about it is, we know what fuels this crisis. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines designed to kill as many people as possible, and sometimes as many children as possible, as quickly as possible. The data is clear. When assault weapons are used, mass shootings are far more deadly, with 6 times as many people shot and more than 2 times as many killed. Year after year, progress is stalled while our communities and our children pay the price. This is a uniquely American phenomenon, but Minnesota does not have to wait any longer. We have the power to lead the way and to show that the lives of our children matter than the gun lobby's money and political cowardice. Enough delay and enough excuses. It's time to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and to finally put our kids' right to simply grow up ahead of everything else. Brady was not able to be here today, but they asked me to read a brief statement of support saying that Minnesota should finally join states around the nation that have said enough is enough and pass an assault weapons ban and a ban on large capacity magazines. And finally, I'd like to introduce our final speaker, our partner here in the state of Minnesota and around the country in ending gun violence, Moms Demand Action Executive Director, Angela Farrow-Zabala.
Good afternoon. Gonna be honest, y'all, my heart is racing, and I know many of yours are as well. We're here after yet another school shooting. 2 children are dead, 14 more children, and 3 teachers were shot. As a parent, I have to say what every parent feels at this moment, which is the grief is crushing and the anger is unrelenting. This is unbearable. This is unacceptable. Yesterday, I got to come home. I got to come home and tuck my kids into bed and kiss their foreheads. This morning, I had the privilege of watching them sleep safely in their beds and kiss them one more time before I came here. I got to do that because my children came home yesterday. Some of the children at Annunciation Catholic School did not. And for those kids who did make it home, For the parents who did get the chance to pull them close and hold them tight, their lives are still forever changed. Right now, some parents are carrying unbearable grief. Some are carrying unrelenting anger. And whatever you are feeling, it's okay. If all you can do today is find a quiet moment and hold your children close because you still can, honor that. If you feel called to scream your anger into the streets, honor that too. If you need time to sit in the grief before you can get loud, take it. And when you're ready, that will be the right moment for you to act. But I do want to be clear. This wasn't random. This was a second mass shooting in Minneapolis in as many days. 2 days, 2 mass shootings. And yesterday, the shooter aimed an AR-style rifle built to kill as many people, as many children, as quickly as possible through the windows of a church and opened fire. We've said it before, but clearly we need to say it again. Assault weapons are weapons of war. Period. They are designed for the battleground. They don't belong in our schools, in our churches, in our communities. And yet here we are, again, because politicians would rather protect the gun lobby's profits than protect our kids. A 10-year-old boy had more courage hiding in a church pew while his friend shielded him with his body than I have seen from far too many lawmakers more beholden to a gun lobby than a child. If children can show that kind of bravery under fire, why can't our lawmakers? I'm going to say it again, as it was said before me. We need to ban assault weapons, period. We need to ban high-capacity magazines that allow shooters to fire more rounds without reloading, period, here in Minnesota and across the country. No more excuses. No more thoughts and prayers. Prayers didn't save those children as gunfire rang out while they were actually praying. Action would have. As a woman of deep faith and spirit, there are 2 things that are resonating deeply with me right now, and this is coming from my Christian tradition. The people who enter the kingdom of heaven are not those who claim to know God, but the one who does the will of my Father. Matthew 7:21. And faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. James 2:17. Why are we leaving it to our children to fight gunmen armed with an assault rifle? Let me be clear. This isn't some kind of impossible ask. Assault weapons and our children can't coexist. And we have seen other states take the mantle. Just this year alone, we saw progress from states like Rhode Island and Colorado. The majority of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, veterans, people of deep faith, in fact, people from all walks of life agree that these weapons have no place in civilian life. The only ones standing in the way? Politicians who are too cowardly to act. And I say to that, the lives of our children are not for sale, period. We should not have to be standing here the morning after another school shooting, another school shooting, another school shooting. But here we are, yet again, standing in front of you in grief and anger and asking, when will enough be enough? And we will keep showing up and keep asking that question until lawmakers finally decide that the lives of children are worth more than the profits of gun manufacturers. We owe our kids more than lockdown drills and ducking for cover in church pews. We owe them a future. And if lawmakers won't act to ban assault weapons, to ban high-capacity magazines, then voters will elect new ones that will. Thank you very much.
We're going to take about 3 or 4 questions. I know we're running a little over, and then we can do some pull-asides after. So please raise your hand if you have a question, and we ask that you direct your question to the speaker instead of generally. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is for state legislators. In 2024, when the DFL controlled the legislature, you were unable to pass an assault weapons ban that was proposed. Now the Republicans have divided control in the House. What makes you think practically that this could have any chance of passing next year?
Thank you for your question. My name is Erin Murphy. I am the proud Senate Majority Leader. We have to take the vote. We need to act on the wishes of Minnesotans and for the safety of our kids all across the state of Minnesota. And as I've heard previous leaders say, take the vote. Vote your district. We'll see where it goes. But I think Minnesotans are clear with us. They are in favor of a ban on assault weapons, and they're in favor of a ban on high-capacity magazines. And it's time for us to love our children most and do our work.
I think we should have in 2024. The thought at the time was that we hadn't acted on gun violence prevention to move it forward in our state in decades. We hadn't taken advances to try to protect our kids, our public, and we did take important action in 23 and 24. We enacted universal background checks and we enacted red flag laws, and those 2 bills are saving lives today. I had a bill drafted to ban assault weapons and ban high-capacity magazines, and I didn't introduce it. And part of the thought was we weren't ready. Part of the thought was we needed to take action on these 2 laws first to break the ice, to try to be able to move forward. But we're ready now. It shouldn't have taken tragedy coming to Minnesota to be ready. I have an 8-year-old who goes to school a mile away from Annunciation Church. It shouldn't have taken it coming to our communities for us to be ready to act. We should have been ready to act then, but we are ready to act now.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will say that one of the things I get to do in my role as a national leader is travel all across this country in the reddest of states, the bluest of states, the purple states, and poll after poll, conversation after conversation, mother, father, parent, they all want the same.
Mr. Honor, with Michelle Henry County. Thank you for being here.